When does someone become a master? Is it the amount of time spent on a craft or the success you achieved with it? In this Adorama original series, we'll travel throughout the United States and discover people who spent countless hours perfecting their craft and finding their own voice. Because being a master today means being able to recognize that voice and inspire people to find their own.
You have to be prepared for the moment that happens. So if you call it lucky, well, you did something to prepare yourself for that moment. After shooting for so long, you can kind of anticipate where and why things may happen in certain situations too. So I think experience kind of trumps luck after a while. Hi, I'm Jed Jacobsohn. I'm a sports photographer based here in the Bay Area. I'm an independent photographer. I cover from professional sports to some amateur sports, sometimes working for clients, sometimes working for leagues, and sometimes working for agencies as well. Some of my clients include NBA, Associated Press, Getty Images, Sports Illustrated, Major League Baseball. I work for local baseball teams as well, Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants. I also do a lot of commercial work for clients like Nike and Rolex, also just in the world of sport, in addition to lots of portraitures of athletes and feature work as well. And right here, I'm working for the Sail GP, which is a local sailing race that happens every year, and I'm working for the organization itself. I started in sports photography in high school. The local school newspaper that I was working for actually had a really good photography teachers, so that initially kind of sparked my interest. I was looking for a summer job and called around. AP was like, nah, Reuters were no. UPI, this gentleman named Terry Schmidt picked up the phone. He's like, yeah, kid, come on in. So I went down in San Francisco. One of the things I first covered was the 49ers and the A's. I was halfway decent at it and kind of just kept on doing it throughout high school. And then I went to college at Syracuse in New York and studied photojournalism. So after I graduated college, went full-time at All Sport in 1995. Getty Images bought All Sport in 2000, and I was with them till 2010. To me, sports photography really is showing people sport through photography in an interesting way. My style of photography, I feel like, is a mix of editorial and artistic. Certain clients are focused on the winning moment and really covering the game or the event that I'm at as a news story. And other clients are more interested in pretty pictures and kind of more artistic style photography. For me, I don't like to necessarily pigeonhole myself. I like to be able to sort of be like a Swiss Army knife in a sense that I'm proficient at a lot of things with photography. The NBA setup is pretty intensive. I'm shooting at the basketball arena with strobes, so that means I have one frame every 2 seconds because that's how long it takes for the strobes to recycle. So just that alone in itself is a challenge, anticipating the action. But I feel like with the NBA, all the work is before the game, and it's like the prep work before the game, and then once everything's set, everything just kind of rolls. It's also one of my more favorite sports to shoot. I really enjoy shooting NBA. That helps too. It's like when you enjoy what you're shooting, it makes it easier. At the NBA games, I'm setting up 2 remote cameras, one behind the glass, which you have to mount with 2 magic arms, one on the camera and then one on the magic arm itself as a security, safety cable, everything in. Then I'm using pocket wizards to fire the strobes and the remotes. And so you are triggering the camera and the strobe at the same time. And on the glass remote is on the other side of the court from where I'm shooting my handheld cameras from. I'll be operating the remote cameras usually just cross court, not when they're coming at me, which makes it easier to do it. And for the glass camera, you have to put in black wrap so you don't get the reflection on the glass. Then I'll put another camera underneath the basket, looking back up at the hoop, which is just like the kind of the angles that the NBA likes and wants. Here at the Sail GP, we're a crew of around 7 or 8 photographers, and each day we kind of each have our own assignments that we need to cover. Within that, it's pretty much covering most of the angles of the race that we need to get. And so today I was shooting from shore with a 400-2.8 and my R3 as my main camera. And then also I borrowed from Canon the 28-300, which is an older style lens, but also really nice for this particular situation. And also for this particular client, they're looking for all the images immediately. So I have all the cameras hardwired into the MiFi and sending to the client right away. And I'm shooting RAW plus JPEGs and sending the RAWs. The technology will definitely help you to get the shot, but there's still moments that you miss despite all the things that the camera can do. You still have to be ready, prepared for what may happen, and use that to get the job done. Being an independent photographer, I have to basically be prepared for any job that comes my way, whether it's lighting, working long glass at an event, or feature type work. So it's a constant juggling of gear and picking what's right for the particular job and just managing everything to make sure that you have what the client is looking for in the end. I shoot with Canon. I sort of have the full spectrum of the Canon cameras as they evolve into the mirrorless world. So I just picked up the R3, which is their latest mirrorless camera, and that's kind of become my main camera for shooting with, which I've been really enjoying. It's actually kind of my first foray into mirrorless. I use the 1DX Mark II as my second camera. And then for remote cameras, I have 1DXs still. And then for lenses, I kind of also have the full spectrum. I have a 400 and a 300, and I really enjoy using the prime lenses too, like the 50-1.2 and the 85-1.2, to try to use that as much as I can for portraits. And for basketball, I'll use the 24-105 underneath the hoop, which is also really nice on strobes. 16-35 as well. Also the 24-70 2.8 is really nice. I think eventually I'll probably end up transitioning fully over to mirrorless at some point soon. There's certain things that you can do with mirrorless that you can't do with DSLR, especially in the sports world. I do a lot of golf, and just to have a silent shutter, also to be able to see the exposure in camera is huge. In fact, I feel like that's a game changer. For post-production, it's a mix. Usually the bigger events, the client is doing the editing, and the smaller events, it's usually myself doing the editing. For post-production, I use Adobe Photoshop and Photomechanic for editing. It offers the most robust FTP transmitting software, and also the way that they have their parameters set works really well for sports photography. And also, when I'm doing my own editing, code replacement works really well with Photomechanic, and code replacement basically it has a database of all sports, and you just type in the number of an athlete and the name gets printed out automatically. So it saves a ton of time. I used to cover a lot of boxing, and I was at the Evander Holyfield Mike Tyson fight where Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear off. I was the second person in from Holyfield's corner, and after he got his ear bit, he kind of walked back toward his corner, and I just have this one frame of his face is out of focus, and then just like the piece of ear is just like missing, and it's like a black background, and so that image is super unique, and at the time, and still to this day, it's still like talked about all the time. One thing that I like to do with my photography is look for the in-between moments, the not obvious moments that sometimes are the ones that are the most impactful. Whether it's in between a play or just showing a player with a certain emotion that kind of explains what's happening in that particular game is what I'm looking for. And sometimes it's not obvious, like it's not the obvious moments that make the best ones too. So you really kind of have to always be aware of what's going on in the environment and know what the story too is that you're looking to tell. My advice to someone starting in sports photography is to make a lot of friends and take risks. Don't be afraid to make mistakes with your photography too, because that's how you learn as well. And to really kind of follow what moves you, what's important to you. So meet people that you admire and look up to, or work you admire. Not necessarily emulate that, but just see what works for them and try to incorporate it into your own photography.